assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen.
Bukhair Ragile, Ni Hao, Churushumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimus, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa Hal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Bhalli Kare Aya, Washmale, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You watching World this morning alongside the very fantastic, the very superb, the very energetic Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan on a very fine Thursday morning over here in Islamabad. Hello Shiza, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely great, thank you for asking, and it just feels like you got on a lot of sleep last night.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, thankfully, and I'm very glad that I've actually got my hands onto, or probably my eyes onto, a good night's sleep as well. And ladies and gentlemen, there's an indicator for that, whether I've slept enough or not, because my body clock is actually fixed onto having a 6 hours sleep, and that's about it. So whenever it's complete 6 hours, my eyes are just wide open as well.
Wow.
So today was the day when I actually woke up at 6:45. Usually I wake up at somewhat around 7:15 or 7:30. But whatever time I sleep at night, so it indicates that, okay, whenever the 6 hours are going to complete, I'll be up and right away, So I think that I feel great. And whenever you've actually caught on your Z's very well, I think that you feel awesome as well. But there's a very interesting incident which I would want Shiza to share.
Which one?
Yeah, okay. So let me be very clear on this one as well. So ladies and gentlemen, usually what happens is that, obviously, so women actually have to wake up a little earlier, their makeup and, clothes, and they have to sort everything out.
Okay.
So every now and then, whenever she was coming to office, I was the first one to be actually in the makeup chair. And today what happened, today she thought that she's actually earlier in the office, but hey, to her surprise, my car was parked right in front of it. And she was like, you know what, today I was thinking that, I've woken up early and you were still there. So,
Yeah, and I'm not even kidding, man. I actually really woke up an hour earlier than I'm supposed to. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to beat Shahzad to it. I'm going to get in the seat and get done before Shahzad does.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. So it's a good thing, first of all, to have colleagues who, make you challenge things early in the morning, because that is what sets the mood for the entire day, right? And one very important thing that you said, that you should at least catch on to 6 hours of sleep. It's so important for your natural sleep cycle, for your body to work perfectly healthy as well. And you know what, this is probably going out for all the children out there who are watching the show right now. I think you really, really have to appreciate your parents for one thing. They sleep according to your schedule. They wake up according to your schedule. Imagine they're as humans and you are, and because they're a little elderly, they probably need even more hours of sleep than you do. But they don't bother about it. They just continuously work for you 24/7. Make sure to appreciate them today. At least give them a hug, give them a small tiny gift, maybe make them breakfast.
Exactly. Thank you very much for mentioning that as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I think majority of the credit actually goes to mothers, because they are the ones who are actually going to get them ready for school.
But there are stay-at-home dads as well.
Exactly, yes, that's not what I'm saying, but majority of mothers needs to be given the credit. But other than that, early in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know so far, Shiza is actually hooked to coffee. I'm hooked to tea. Because of certain reasons, I cannot have coffee. I'm just scared of coffee as well. But you wouldn't have had a cup of tea or coffee to yourself if, God forbid.
Imagine if there was no maritime activities going on in the entire world. Imagine, Shahzad. So, airplanes came a lot after then transport was even a thing. I mean, of course, it started earlier. Cars came in the last century as well, or a little before that too. But imagine if there were no ships, no ferries, no boats, no nothing. A lot of people, first of all, wouldn't have been able to migrate, to tour around places. And then, like you mentioned, the coffee beans or the tea that reaches your kitchen or breakfast plate early in the morning would not have been there, because that is how we receive it, right?
Exactly. And it's not even just coffee and tea, it's cell phones. It's whatever we use as well, ladies and gentlemen, because the 80% of the trade within the world, ladies and gentlemen, takes place through maritime. And to be very honest, I think that everybody is actually talking about blue economy these days as well. But it's it's at a very embryonic stage as well as of now when we speak about maritime. But today, ladies and gentlemen, is 24th of September 2020, and today happens to be the World Maritime Day. What do we actually have to talk about is something which really will be beneficial for our country and for the future of the country, and not just our country, I think everybody around as well.
Right, and specifically talking about Pakistan, Shahzad, the coastal area of Pakistan happens to be immensely biodiverse as well,
Yeah.
right? So when we look at the untapped potential over here, there are millions and trillions of dollars that we have not yet gotten onto. But economists actually suspect that is the future of Pakistan if it actually taps that potential. But right now, it's hardly adding 0.2% to the GDP of the country. I don't know where we're headed. We'll talk about that. And also, you spoke about blue economy. So again, it's in the initial stages, right? It's sort of in a development state. It looks at tourism, yes. It also looks at generating economy, and then it looks at social inclusion, so many other things. We will talk to our experts in detail about that. But economists expect that to be for about $24 trillion per year globally. But right now, it's around $400 to $500 billion per year. So we're headed in a good direction. Fingers crossed. Let's see where this gets us.
Exactly, and not just that. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we are actually supposed to pay rich tribute to all of those seafarers who were out there amidst the corona time as well. You know, there were 2 million seafarers who were out there and who made sure that they're actually going to work day in, day out, so that the economies of the countries, of different countries, can actually work. So a rich tribute to all of those people as well. But very quickly, to talk about it, I think we've got some very apt guests over here in the studios who are going to shed light on what we really need to know as how do you want us to be labeled today? Because maritime is a subject which not many will be aware of. I think probably people who have been within the Navy as well, and not just that. I think people who are seafarers, people who are on these cruise ships. I think everybody is involved in it as well. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, since we have been working on Gwadar Port as well, so I think that we have a lot of opportunity out there as well. But how are we going to capitalize on it? And how are we going to move forward with the mission of developing blue economy for our country? Because when we say that 80% of trade takes place through maritime, I think it's about our high time that we actually invest in it.
Yes.
We have started to invest in it in a long time ago, but when are we going to look forward to those results which we actually are willing to have for Pakistan as well?
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we hope that everybody out there has actually had their cup of tea and coffee, because it's the credit goes to all of those people in the seas as well. So first up, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by the Senior Fellow of the National Institute of Maritime Affairs. He is Mr. Kanwar Javed Iqbal Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back,
Happy
sir.
Maritime Day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Same to you.
Thank you very much, sir. And last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, it came to me as a surprise. To be
we
very
were
honest.
impressed, man.
And I am impressed as of now as well. And we hope that that's how we stay after the show as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this lady has actually dedicated her life to doing research about maritime and how probably economies can develop based on blue economy, and how blue economy is going to play a pivotal role in the development of a country, and what needs to be done, what needs to be contemplated upon, and what needs to be reflected upon as well. Ladies and gentlemen, she is a senior researcher at NIMA, and she is Miss Naghmana Zafar. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for having you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you, but first things first. First of all, I would like to know, how would you highlight the importance of this day, and then how do oceans really work?
In your introduction, you have already talked about how the basic commodities of life reach to us. The role of oceans as a connection between the continents is very well recognized. However, their contribution as sustainer of the life on planet Earth is not very well recognized. Many of us are not aware of the fact that the 50% of the oxygen we breathe is actually produced by the oceans.
Wow.
And almost the same amount of the carbon dioxide is absorbed by the oceans.
Okay.
Similarly, if we talk about the other contribution that ocean has in our life, almost 60% of the precipitation and evaporation, that is like rain, takes place on the oceans. So it's not just the land part of the earth that is important to us, and we should be care about that. The oceans are more critical, more important for sustaining the human life on planet Earth. We are we have been taught in our early stages that 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by the ocean. So you need to actually you need to actually realize the ratio that Earth part is only 30% and rest all is covered by the salt waters. So
and usually it's the same for human body as well. I think it's the 80% or 73% water, and the rest, ladies and gentlemen, is the body you see as well.
Right.
But since we were talking, there are a few things which you've missed out on. My question was, how would you like to highlight the significance of this day, and then how are oceans governed? You know, this is what oceans are beneficial for, but how are oceans governed by countries, states? How does it work?
Actually, knowing the significance that oceans are critical to the life, there were some international bodies who were of the view that there should be some governance mechanism for the oceans. Most of the oceans fall into the high seas, which are not part of any jurisdiction under any state. But along the land borders, the oceans are given some authorities over the states are given some authorities over the oceans, and
some
it
part
is
of the ocean.
yes, some part of the oceans, and it is through United Nations body. One of the very famous convention, which is known as UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. That is the most important, most significant, well recognized, highly complex and ever negotiated framework to govern the oceans. And then International Maritime Organization, which is again a UN specialized agency, they are the one who are playing a very critical role, and they are the one who actually started celebrating this World Maritime Day, just to make people realize that how important oceans are and what critical role they play in their life.
Wonderful. That's brilliant. And you know what, I think it is absolutely important to celebrate this day, Shahzad, because while a lot of people like you and me wouldn't know the details of how the maritime sector works, right? I think it's important to celebrate the day, first of all, to educate, and then to aware people how to rightfully or responsibly use the water resources or the ocean resources that naturally exist. So, sir, now coming to you, the theme for this year, I think should be the theme forever. We are talking about sustainability over here. While using the resources, we should use it in a way that we're not damaging the earth anymore. So, sustainable shipping for sustainable planet is the theme. What do you think about it?
Basically, this theme is conceived by IMO.
Okay.
Based on United Nations goals, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
That is basically the origin of these SDGs is right from date back 1972.
Yes.
The agenda basically started. Then it came in the form of sustainable MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, as part of Agenda 21, and then later is transformed into more and more clarified form is in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And not a single SDG, we cannot say that a single SDG is relevant for the ocean governance. So, most of the SDGs and their indicators, they are relevant for the ocean governance.
Or in connection with
Okay. And because the ocean governance is, you can say, is participatory in nature. Basically, the right-based governance or the rule-based governance, these two mechanisms exist worldwide. But when we talk about the ocean governance, it's a shared resources, basically worldwide. So, it's a participatory in nature. Whatever the rule of the business, they dictate. Normally, it seems to be the rule-based ocean governance. But if you go into the depth that my colleague said earlier, that the negotiations, the word, she used the word negotiation. So, the negotiation are basically the participatory mechanism between the state that exist under the UN umbrella. So, this is the shared resources and we have shared governance, and for that though the sustainability is not, the shipping is the one segment for the overall sustainability in the maritime overall domain, but shipping sector itself, if you talk about the one gray area is the emission factor. Nowadays, we are talking about the climate change and we are facing climatic calamities and the variations in the system, in the natural circulation pattern and system. So, 2.2% emission is the contribution from shipping sector, this is towards the man-made contribution in the overall global emission index.
Okay, but that's, while yes, it actually does mean a lot, I really hope we get to reduce that too. But before we do move on with anything else, we have to realize, or we have to address that this year, everyone, every single state or the country was going through a pandemic. So imagine the people who were working on the sea because it's their job, they got stranded on the ships for some extra months that they were not even probably prepared for, or they didn't have resources for. First of all, let's talk about them, the challenges they must have to face. And then, how should actually countries be ready for such a thing to ever hit again, God forbid? Let's start with you and then we'll move on to you.
Yeah, God forbid it come again. But again, this is the most vulnerable sector, and we also discussed it in the in one of the previous program in your show.
Yes.
That the most vulnerable group was the seafarer group, and those they have done wonderful job throughout this pandemic issue.
Right.
But again, this is quite challenging, and our economy and the value chain overall, that's dependent on the shipping lines.
Yeah.
And we can just pray for this, but the challenge again, when we are talking about the sustainable shipping, then there are certain issues which the IMO trying to address or the raise awareness on, like the ballast water management. Is it has also a convention, and this is one segment in the overall, like reducing marine litter and other factors.
Okay.
But ballast water, this also a contributing factor towards the contagious disease.
Yes.
Or the so these kind of management at the sea level or the shipping line level, we can reduce number of cases, and at least the people, their health is on stake while they are doing their work at the ship during the operations.
Exactly, but I think that you've actually raised a very important point. I am not sure whether you actually realize that you are actually highlighting such an important point, and that is when we're talking about that 80% of trade takes place through maritime resources. How can this sector be so vulnerable? Because you've just stated it, 80% of the world import and export is through sea, and we're yet over here saying that it's the most vulnerable sector. I think that IMO really needs to look into it if that's how it is, number one. Number two, we are actually utilizing a global common. When we talk about sea, when we talk about oceans, it is a global common, and almost everybody, whoever is more authoritative will take the more advantage as well. How in the first place we're going to, make sure, because if we are going to talk about blue economy, we will really need to draw the line for other countries as well and for ourselves as well, number one. Number two, how do you think that this vulnerability will be taken away? Because a lot of people have lost a lot of money and businesses in terms of being vulnerable as well. And in what direction do you think IMO needs to work to make sure that they create a significant difference in probably, making sure that nobody's going to lose anything? Because I'm very sorry, but I'll have to say it. So we make sports socks, and we send them via container. It takes 40 or 50 days to reach somewhere else. The world's moving on to electric vehicles as well. When are we going to see electric ships, or probably, things like that? Because we're talking about sustainable shipping for sustainable planet.
So, first of all, coming towards the point that Shiza highlighted, and you have also spoke about the same thing. When we talk about challenges to the maritime domain, our uncertainty is the most, I would say,
constant.
The biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge we are facing. I mean, it's not been the pandemic only. If we just look at in the context of threats to the maritime domain, we would see that piracy, maritime terrorism,
Yes.
the climate change, the accidental oil spills, all these come under the title of uncertain or non-traditional maritime threats.
Okay.
And they needs to be addressed, because if you have to ensure the constant flow of trade from one point to another, you have to take care of all these uncertain aspects.
Definitely.
So with regards to addressing uncertainties, as Kamar Saab just highlighted, that we are talking about global common, so all the states around the world, they are working together.
Okay.
Cooperation is the key to address the uncertainty, and we always say that in maritime domain, land divides but sea unites. So
Yes.
when you look at the sea, you will see that all the states, they are working together to have joint frameworks. They are working together to have collaborative regional mechanism. They are
Okay.
working to have some support mechanism, so that if any one state fall for any uncertain scenarios, so there are neighboring countries who actually support them, help them, and then there are different levels of cooperation as well.
Okay.
For example, at IMO, you see there is an huge global international level of cooperation. At every region you may find some regional organizations over there who are some of them are very specific to address specific issues and challenges. Some of them are journals, some of them are governing bodies, then there are NGOs. So that's how we would be dealing all the uncertainties and particularly the non-traditional threats which we have been facing from past 2 decades in maritime domain, because we have to ensure that this trade flow remains safe, secure, and should not be hampered by any threat or any challenge. So this is just one part of your question. And then you were talking about the blue economy and different levels. So if we wish to exploit the blue economy, the blue potential of the seas, again there are levels. States are encouraged to make their own policies according to the ingredients they have, according to the kind of coastal belt they have, according to their own indigenous maritime development goals they have, and then there are some regional goals. So states are also working together within the regional frameworks that how to make sure that let's say for example a fish, it doesn't stays at one place. So it's like
you can't claim it.
You cannot ask some marine mammals to have the passport to flow to cross the borders or anything. So if you have to ensure that the marine resources stay healthy, the ocean health should be your priority, then you have to work in a cooperative mechanism.
Most definitely.
So that's how we have to deal with the blue potential as well. We have to go into a cooperative mechanism.
That's clean energy. There's one point left, and that is the world's moving towards electric vehicles now.
So there is a good news that we are already going towards automatic shipping, and then we are also IMO has imposed some sulfur cap restrictions as well. They are also going towards the pollution content restriction regulations as well. So hopefully soon you will see that you will have some automatic vehicles moving around, automatic ships moving around the seas.
So correct me if I'm wrong again. So 200 nautical miles is the EEZ for each country, and then there's international waters, right? So this is amazing, like you said, because this is something shared universally. When we talk about international land or international shared, I want to say land again, that's only airports at a particular country that are claimed internationally. No other zone is available, to share. So this is one good thing about the oceans that I absolutely love: cooperation. This is where we headed. Now, before we were talking, before the show started, you mentioned that a massive dead zone has been discovered around Pakistan's coastal area. First of all, we need to let people know how dead zones are created. How are we contributing to the pollution that, of our own coastal area, and what losses are there for us to see?
Let me just share with you as well as with the audience that it's not in the maritime zones of Pakistan. It is near to the maritime zones of Pakistan. It is in the Gulf of Oman actually. There are like almost 500 dead zones in the world, and this is the largest one. It is almost equivalent to the size of Florida. So a dead zone, how they created, it's actually just to make it easy, that zone is an area where we cannot have marine life, because there is no oxygen, there is no due to pollution the water gets thick, so all the activity that supports the life under the sea that got abandoned due to this pollution and all stuff. And then acidification, that is again very scientific thing, but just to make it easy, that due to change in pH of seas, it causes acidification.
So how not getting into
not getting into the nitty-gritties, these dead zones are usually, they have the tendency to spread, and what implications we will be facing in future, God forbid, they actually cause kind of dead seas, and they actually turn your seas into a dead zone, dead seas, where you cannot have fish over there, you cannot have any flora or fauna over there. So it will have in long term a very critical impact on the coastal communities as well, their economic, their socio-economic lives as well. So the implications are really, really devastating. How we are contributing towards it, we have to control marine pollution, we have to control the litter. Particularly, we are talking today in the context of World Maritime Day, we are talking about sustainable shipping. So it's not just the shipping that we need to ensure that should be sustainable. We should also, being the inhabitant of the coastal communities, particularly in the Sindh and Balochistan, we should also be careful about our dumping habits, how we treat the trash. We should not throw litter into the seas. We should be properly doing these things. So these are the little contribution. For instance, not using plastic in your daily routine life, properly dumping.
Don't do that, but I hope everyone gets on to that.
I'm coming from Karachi, so I can see.
No.
You know,
Karachi. I think in near future, Karachi will actually be named as the city of plastic as well.
God forbid.
Because wherever you go, ladies and gentlemen, you'll actually find plastic bottles, and I think that there needs to be massive awareness campaigns for people out there. I think Wasim Akram and Shaniara Akram actually did a great job by just being over there, and Shahzad and all of these people. Thank you very much for doing a wonderful job. But since I've lived in Karachi for 5 years, you know, so all of that drainage which is being blocked is because of the plastic as well. And that people tafri karne jate hain, to phir bahut zyada hi kar lete hain. Yeah, so I want to come down to sir over here. So sir, now I think very quickly before we wrap up this segment, what are the key issues for Pakistan if we talk about the maritime as well? And how do you think that all of those issues can be resolved in near future? Because that's where the world is actually looking forward to having a wonderful economy for a place like Pakistan.
You know, first and foremost important issue is the pollution problem. Considering the theme of the day, and also not only the ship is contributing, but also the overall the coastal cities, and then upcoming new mega that would be, you know, in future coming years it would be by 2050 maybe it would be another mega city, Gwadar. This is a forthcoming city. So the pollution, like you already mentioned about the plastic, this is not only the plastic issue on inland in the Karachi, but also what we have seen, the pollution level of pollution with the plastic is, you know, the situation is very alarming in the coastal areas in Pakistan, particularly where the population or the coastal communities are residing, or the Karachi area. So this is the first and foremost important issue, pollution problem. This need to be addressed. That's to avoid or to launch some. We can at the civil society level or the academia level, we can raise some advocacy campaigns, some awareness raising, but the government needs to put some stringent legislation and some practices like waste management and others, particularly in the coastal cities. And also on the ships, one ship, quickly say that one ship can produce a tanker, small tanker can produce 4 to 5 pounds of the solid waste, whereas the large bulk, you know, cruise ships which are mostly used in Europe and America, the cruise ships can produce up to 5 tons of the solid waste, and this is a huge amount. So those needs to be managed. Second thing is that we need to realize the governance issues of our shared resources of the maritime economy, sectoral economies, including the fisheries as a big potential, where the middleman role, the fisher folk community needs to be uplifted, and the export potential needs to be realized, which needs some modern gadgets and technologies, fishing vessels and all that. So government needs to put some best practices with improved governance for the overall management. Then maritime tourism segment is there. A maritime tourism segment, what we say that the Maldives case was in 1960s, the UN declared that there is no possibility of the tourism, but now it's leading tourism destination in the world. So we have more or less similar feature alongside the more than 1,000-kilometer long coast Pakistan, and we need to have some focus agenda. The government needs to have some focus agenda to bring tourists to Pakistan, and
Yes.
it can be a leading destination for that tourism. There is so many other segments, water sports and other. For that, overall, I would say in the last that youth bulge of Pakistan can play a critical role in order to
We are trying, we are
advocate,
trying.
to participate, and take up the agenda.
Wonderful,
Absolutely,
wonderful. Very
absolutely.
quickly, because we're very short on time as well, one last thing which I wanted to ask, and that is, it just came to my head. And so while I was living in Karachi, we would go to Kimari very often and, do crabbing with Captain Salim. But there's this one thing which I've always witnessed, and that is that for all of those fishermen who are out there, I think it's like 300 or 400 boats or ships, whatever they have. And, they take you in the middle of that hangar, and then, you just have to be in the shape and, eat your crabs and do whatever. But for the rest of the food which is saved, or while whatever they're cooking, all of that oil is, they are dumping it in the water every day. 300 to 400 fishermen, and we do not see any kind of legislation. We do not see any littering police or something of that sort, which needs to be there, which needs to actually educate them that, hey, you know what, if you're doing so, it's just half an hour away. You go back, you dump it at a place which is safer for everybody. How do you think that we're actually going to come down to a point where people will realize, hey, you know what, we're earning from here, we cannot spill it?
But are there proper dumping sites though?
Okay, let me just answer.
So
to
that's
it.
the problem.
Exactly. We do have very good legislations. I must say, Pakistan have like wonderful legislative frameworks to address the environmental issues. The only issue we face is implementation that requires some strictness. So there are like you were talking about the Maritime Police, and then there are like bodies like Maritime Security Agency who are responsible to look after the dumping at sea and everything. But what is the main challenge? While we were talking about challenges as well, and then you were talking about the dumping sites, everything is available over there, but we lack awareness. We usually say that we are in the context when we talk and when we sit with the maritime stakeholders, we usually say that we are a sea blind nation. We do not understand and realize that how critical oceans are and how to protect them. So what we can do is that we need to raise awareness about
Definitely.
how to do things rightly at right way with the right thing. And
Got it.
secondly, how critical oceans are. As you have just
Exactly.
mentioned that if you are earning from them, you have to save them. It's
Exactly.
your
You're right,
responsibility.
and I think this is what you guys did today, awareing people and educating everyone, including us as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing your amazing knowledge. One thing before we do head out, I have to mention over here, I absolutely love people who are dedicated to what they're working for the betterment of the country. And Cover Saab over here is actually wearing a tie with ships and boats on it. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being so
This is
dedicated to
attention
the
to
cause.
detail. Yeah.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we love to educate you about things that do matter for the betterment of the country.
Yeah.
And like we already mentioned in the beginning, the blue economy for Pakistan is a huge, huge untapped potential which we need to look into. So, the first step that we need to do is be aware ourselves.
Exactly.
Let's move in the best direction.
Exactly, wonderfully said as well. But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those people who are actually the seafarers as well, there are a lot of problems which they come across. Seasickness being one of them. But I think for people, since Shiza mentioned that it is for the betterment of everybody who's out there, that we first of all need to be aware of what's
Yes.
actually going on. So for all of those people on land or on sea, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us on your television screens, the next segment is actually for the betterment of any individual who's out there. But what is it about is something for which you'll actually have to stay tuned. We're going for a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
Welcome back to World This Morning, ladies and gentlemen, with the very good-looking Shahzad Khan.
thank you.
We'll know the secret in a bit. And me, Shahzad Hashmi. So here's the thing, Shahzad, right? Before we went out on a short break, you said there's something important we're going to talk about, and it's for everyone and for the betterment of their own health and self. What is it?
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, skin actually happens to be the largest part of our body as well, and not many people over here in Pakistan are very keen of looking after it. But today we thought that we're actually going to dedicate a segment and make sure, because just recently one of my friend actually sent me a picture, and he had pimples over here on his face, and he was like, what should I do? I was like, why are you even asking me? He's like, you do so many shows, you get so many doctors on your show as well. Why did you ask any one of them? So today, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be that day where we will be talking about acne and laser treatments as well, because a lot of time people will come in, they're like, what, the laser is not really effective. So who really needs to go for all of these treatments? And people who really do not need to go for these treatments, that's where we're going to divide a line in between and make sure that we actually give you the best reviews from the best person over here in the studios present with us, ladies and gentlemen. She happens to be a consultant dermatologist and a cosmetologist, Dr. Nadia Arshad Chaudhary. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm good. How you do?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. So let's get the conversation started.
Let's do it.
Acne, and I think it's one of those problems which every household has got in Pakistan, and we haven't really seen. I haven't witnessed a permanent solution to acne. Is there one?
It's not like the 100% people are getting acne. Mostly teenagers, and if they are taking good care of their skin, they can get rid of it. It's just like when in adolescence, your sebum producing cells, they secrete more sebum, right?
Okay.
So your skin becomes more oily, and this is the time when you have to stop it actually.
Okay.
So if you don't use right kind of sunscreen, makeup, because every girl wants to wear makeup now, even in the teenagers. So if they don't wear right kind of makeup, right kind of sunscreen, they'll prone to get more acne.
Okay, that makes sense. And here's the thing. So a lot of guys actually, like you mentioned, right, after hitting puberty, they do develop acne as well. Well, our question still remains. Is it permanently fixable, first of all?
It is.
It is?
Yeah,
oh,
it
wow,
is.
that's brilliant.
See, if you think the 100% people get acne in their adolescence, you guys have, mashallah, very clear skin.
Thank you.
It
It's all
means
makeup.
If you have, no, but acne
Not
scars,
with
they can be seen in the makeup as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
right?
of course, you're right.
So if somebody managed it, or maybe you didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
So in our practice, what we believe, I mean, a patient comes and their parents, they say, oh, we don't want so many treatments, we just want one or two. But in a acne patient, sometimes you have to treat, you have to give many medicines. It can be topical, it can be the combination of topical plus oral medications, sunscreen. Sometimes you have to take some, I mean, if you have, in acne, if you see, we have black heads and white heads. We call them closed comedones and open comedones, right?
Okay.
So if you tell them, okay, you have to treat them, and there's a procedure for that, they'll be like, oh, in that age, we really don't want to get those treatments done. But sometimes it's quite necessary.
All
And
right.
if you see some people have very small pimples on their cheeks, and if you have their cystic acne,
Yes.
and they have nodules under the skin, that's somehow when you see in their adult age, you see the scar, the pitted scar, the deep scar, and even makeup cannot hide that,
That's
right?
true, that's
so if you don't treat them in that age, so they'll be permanent.
Okay, so here's the thing. Sorry, Shahzad,
Yeah,
I'm cutting
go
you over here. But sometimes, like you mentioned,
This segment
and
interests, kind of.
yeah, I have so many questions. So here's the thing. A lot of people who do not have acne-prone skin, they do still sometimes develop tiny bumps on their forehead either, or on their cheeks sometimes. What are they for? And if you ask your parents or the people around you, they're like, "Pani piya karo, theek ho jayega." Is that the solution?
Yeah, pani is really good for the skin
Of
to
course.
hydrate it, right? जब आपके dry patches आते हैं, so sometimes it can be because of rosacea as well.
Okay.
Sometimes when they're scaly, they're red. It can we call it seborrheic dermatitis, but otherwise, in layman we call it dandruff, right? So they fall off on your skin, on your shoulder, and even that gives you a scaly, red, bumpy skin.
Okay.
So you have to treat the scalp as well,
Oh,
right?
makes
And
sense.
yeah, you need to be hydrated very well, right?
It's important.
Yeah, it's important. And to get rid of those bumps, if they're very tiny and they're close comedones, they're covered, they're whiteheads, right? You have to get a little bit of light cautery for that.
Okay.
And sometimes only a topical medication with a combination of retin A and benzyl peroxide, even that can can make it better actually.
Yeah. And there's one more question which she has got. So Shiza, I'll let you ask your question first, and then I'll move on to mine.
So
Yeah,
here's the
go
thing.
ahead.
So skincare routines are on top of everyone's list nowadays, be it men, be it women. Everyone on Instagram is actually sharing their routines as well. So here's my question. We are lately coming across a lot of products that are readily available in the market that we didn't know existed before for anti-aging and for like glycolic acid, or, hyaluronic acid. First of all, are they safe to use without experts' advice?
See, everybody has a different pH of the skin, right?
And you can't choose just looking
you
at
can
Google.
just go randomly, and your skin is different, Shazad's skin is different, mine is different, right? It's not with the layer of the skin, it's just like
The type.
the type of the.
Definitely.
One can have oily skin, one can have a dry skin, one can have a combination skin. So you cannot just go and randomly and pick up anything that is available in the shelf, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to choose it wisely. Then what you should use first, second, third. And few people, we are talking about acne. So it's like many parents, they ask, oh, my girl is wearing a lot of makeup nowadays, and she's. You should tell her that okay, don't wear it. So okay, it's good that she shouldn't wear it in her early teens and all that, but otherwise it has nothing to do with the makeup actually.
Got it.
So you have to wear sunscreen, a moisturizer, and then you can wear makeup as well, but you have to clean it properly, and there should be proper medication that you should apply at night.
Okay.
So then your skin will be all fine.
All right, wonderful. And I think that this is what everybody wants. They want their skin to glow. They want their skin to be shiny. They want their skin to be bright. And this is how everybody is these days, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just be a part of that clan. But very quickly, what I'm going to ask now is something which I've come across from a lot of people, and that's the kind of feedback we get usually. And that is that with dermatology, what happens is that, whatever treatments, because I'm talking about aesthetic treatments only, I'm not talking about acne or any kind of illness
Cosmetics.
related with the skin as well. Now, what happens is that for whatever aesthetic treatment you're going to get, it has a life of roughly 6 months or 3 months, or I'm not sure whether how long or how short
It's
the
not
life can
permanent,
be.
right?
But it's not permanent, and it's expensive. So eventually, people in the first place get in the habit of getting all of those aesthetics for themselves, and then there comes a time, hey, reality, we don't have any more money.
Oh, no.
And then, eventually they see that, that all of those results which they were very happy about, now they're not very happy about it, and it's devastating. So how to keep up with that aesthetic life? How do you think people can have that balance? Because no dermatologist has ever spoken about it. So I would like to take advantage of this opportunity, and please share it with all our viewers, how to actually have a great skin and then manage it properly.
See, as you know, that skin is the largest organ in our
Yeah.
body, right? So whatever you see basically is skin, right? Your hair and your skin, your nails. So if you eat food can make you survive, right? We can just live by eating food, right? So there should be some food for our skin as well, right? So how can you just forget it that and we are aging every day.
So how do we make sure that that collagen is actually going to stay with us?
No, it's gonna be depleted from our body every day, right?
All right.
So you cannot say, oh, I got Botox and it's not lasting more than 6 months, or you got a filler and it's not there anymore after 10 months or a year, or maximum is 3 years, right? So you just cannot prolong the life of the procedure, but you can have more collagen, you can have more elastin by taking oral medications. And you cannot just fix it in one go. You have to take care of your skin every day. So there should be a proper regime you should follow. It's just the same if you buy a car. So maintenance is there. So you are such a living human being. How can you just do it once and that's
I think
High
you're right.
maintenance human beings are in these days, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. So you're right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nadia, for educating us about these things. And I think you're right when you say that every other day we're aging as well. So a lot of people who have just recently gotten into, you know, fixing their skins and anti-aging stuff, whatnot, maybe realize this in their late 20s or in their late 30s and whatnot. So imagine 25 or more years of your life you have not thought or not taken care of your skin.
Yeah.
When it was the right time.
When it was the right time, you should. Oh, what is the right time, by the way? Is it your teenage?
See, you can start your sunblock, sunscreen. Sunscreen is the right terminology for it. You cannot block sun, right? So sunscreen is something that a baby of 6 months should wear it.
Oh wow!
Right.
That's
This
too
is
early.
too
And we
much
start
pressure,
wearing
man.
when we are 30 or 25 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anti-aging is something that you should start by the age of 6 months.
wow.
Your parents should
And by the time
make
you're
you
60,
wear
you've
that.
actually spent millions of rupees on
Yeah, then you
sunscreen
cannot
as
fix
well.
it that way.
Yeah, but that's wonderful. But very quickly, one last thing, that is, what are those food items which we can intake for the betterment of our skin?
Yeah.
Other than
Fruits,
water, please.
probably
As-
fruits.
As she told us, like for rejuvenation and youthful skin, you should take a lot of vitamin C,
Okay.
right? And as she mentioned earlier, water,
Of course.
Water.
right? So these are few things. Fruits are, I mean, in Pakistan, the taste
Citrus.
of fruit is really nice, right?
Yeah.
If you compare to the other countries,
Yep.
so
I
you
agree.
should take a lot of fruits, veggies, and whatever you want to eat. Even nowadays, to keep you young, I think protein is important.
Yes.
Less carbs, that will make you go big and you will
muscly.
age very
Yeah.
soon with carb because sugar is there. So eventually,
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that your diet is low carb and low sugar as well, high on protein. And that's the way forward as well. Please make sure that you do not forget to take vitamin C as well. But
Collagen.
try looking for a fruit which actually has a lot of vitamin C in it as well, probably citrus. But thank you very much, Dr. Nadia.
You're welcome.
One of the best over here, ladies and gentlemen, in Islamabad, as a dermatologist. I think a lot of people actually speak about her professionalism as well. So whenever you get a chance, please look at her on internet as well. But ladies and gentlemen, if there's anything you
Yeah.
want to say to us, or if there's anything you want to write to us, please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of,
Well, this morning.
on Twitter,
Well, this morning without a G.
on Daily Motion and YouTube.
It's PTV World, and then you look for World this
And
morning.
the fabulous repeat's going to be at
5 past midnight tonight.
till the next time. 1, 2, 3. Good
Take care.
morning.
Good morning.